Good evening, everybody. Call to order this meeting of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri Planning Commission, December 5, 2024, about 6 p.m. First order of business is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda of tonight's Planning Commission?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next order of business, approval of minutes from the November 7th, 2024 Planning Commission. Any comments on that one? Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, comments from the public. We now invite members of the public to speak directly to the Planning Commission. If you want to speak, step up to the mic, state your name and address, and we have a time limit of 5 minutes.
I think you'll also have time during the.
Correct, yeah. Okay. Next order of business. Item 5, PC 2024-1201, Tnemec Building Expansion, Planning Commission Site Plan Review. Ms. Wood.
Good evening, Chair and Commission members. This item in front of you is a request for a site plan review by the Planning Commission for Tnemec Buildings Expansion. So currently, the Tnemec manufacturing is located on the Tnemec Addition Lot 1, as specified in the plan. The applicant proposed to expand their current warehousing to be attached to their existing manufacturing onto Tnemec Addition Lot 2. If you remember, this particular final plat was approved about a year ago, and it was recorded. So over here, it is currently Zone M2, which is general industrial. The proposed use meets the requirement for the zoning district. In front of you, there is a staff report talking about the background of the site condition and its former uses over here, and the existing conditions, and then the future proposed buildings over here. There is some sort of extensive application analysis here due to the location, the contamination history over there, and to the potential expansion for the closer proximity to the city's municipal water source supply. So after all the reviews, staff has recommended approval with 9 conditions attached to the staff report. With that, I will turn into the opportunity to the applicant to go through their presentation. If you have any question, you can ask after the presentation. We'll be happy to answer it.
Okay, good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to present our project plans. My name is Chase Bean. I'm CEO of Tnemec Company. I'll be joined by Kyle Frakes, who is our Director of Technical and Regulatory Affairs, and Susie McCart, who is with SCS Engineering, environmental consultants working with Tnemec Company as well. If you'll indulge me just for a moment, I'd like to share with you all a little bit of history of Tnemec and our site to give a little bit of a picture of what we hope to do here. Tnemec is 103 years old. We were founded in 1921. Our founder, who was my great-grandfather, started the business in Kansas City, and he was joined by my grandfather, Ace Bean, shortly after World War II, after he was serving in the Atlantic in the Navy. Together, they moved our facilities to North Kansas City in 1950. This is an artist rendering of this site. Famously, I think it was Northtown Devco that was developing that part of the city at the time, and they offered the company the right to buy the entire block. And famously, they said, why would we ever need that much property? So that was occupied in 1950, and through the 60s and 70s, the company expanded, I believe it was 4 times on the site. This isn't quite the finished effect, but that's probably in the late 60s when this photo was taken. By 1977, you can get an idea of that site. That little red circle depicts our location, totally surrounded by neighbors. The ADM grain mill there was the giant on the block, of course. But during the 70s for Tnemec, it was a very rapid period of growth. 1972 was the Clean Water Act. 1977 followed with the First Amendment of the Clean Water Act. That spurred all sorts of water plant development, wastewater plant development. Those are big markets for Tnemec Company. So our business was growing like wildfire. We ran out of space at this facility. We have factories on the West Coast and the East Coast, but here in Kansas City, we just didn't have enough room. So by 1980, the decision was made to move corporate staffing out of this facility to a new site in Kansas City. That was a groundbreaking. Yes, I know. It's a little embarrassing, but I'm in that photo. That was the building that resulted out of that, and I'm embarrassed to say also that for a paint company, it's made of brick, it has wallpaper, and has carpeted and tiled floors. Flash forward to recent history. You can tell by the empty site on Swift where the new apartment buildings are. That timestamps this a little bit to about 1.5 years ago, maybe. You can see Burlington Street and Armour Road identified here. And you can see where Tnemec's still existing footprint of manufacturing exists. That original footprint that was there in the 70s is still active. What we've been able to do since the late 70s is acquire adjacent land around our building, which has allowed us to invest in North Kansas City, warehousing, technical facilities, multiple laboratories, actually a state-of-the-art R&D facility that is world-renowned. And we have this great big site to our south, over 20 acres. We raised the buildings there, cleaned up the site, and for 15 years have been looking for a way to develop it. We've also, it took 40 years and a pandemic to move our corporate staff back to North Kansas City. The building here on Erie at 1900 Erie, we invested a little over $1 million renovating that building this year and moved about 50 staff in to support the restaurants and businesses here in town. What we do out of this facility, I think, is kind of remarkable. I don't know if you all realize where our products go. Approximately 2,200 water towers are painted every year with Tnemec products. We supply products to world-famous facilities like this airport, Atlanta Hartsfield International Airport. This is the Amazon World Headquarters. All of that steel is coated with Tnemec. Water plants all over the world. This one happens to be in Phoenix, Arizona. And stadiums like this one. This is Yankee Stadium. Green Bay, Lambeau Field is also Tnemec. Many, many stadiums out there. All of those products, for the most part, are made right here in Kansas City. Our objective this evening is to get your support to build a new facility where we can store raw materials adjacent to our factory. There are efficiency needs, productivity issues, and safety issues that we want to address with this. It does add a little bit of capacity for our factory, but not as much as we had originally planned. We scaled this project far down from just a couple of years ago. Not more than 60,000 feet. At this time, it's under 58,000 feet. We are replacing lease space. Right now, we transport raw materials across public streets to get into the factory. It's very inefficient. We're moving materials constantly every day across 23rd Avenue. With a facility that's storing raw materials adjacent to the factory, it's no longer a public concern. And the increased efficiencies. Frankly, from a business standpoint, the number of times we handle materials at this factory make it the most expensive factory we have in our company. So it remains a concern for us. The building will be nice looking. The sight lines from the street from Burlington, I think, will be appreciated by the residents of the city. And the site itself, again, is quite smaller than what we've proposed in recent years. It doesn't extend past the warehouses to our west, and is about even with the start of the car wash, if you can imagine going down Burlington. So it's a much, much smaller facility built into the sight lines of our plant itself. With that, it's a little bit of a preview that there are a lot of technical issues that are important to address, and Kyle Frakes will be the right one to do it because it's not me.
Thanks, Chase. Appreciate you guys allowing us to give you the overview on this. So I'm going to talk about kind of the two big issues on environmental, the ammonia contamination and the xylene contamination. Okay, and there's two of the big reports that Susie put together are the fall under the Brownfield Voluntary Cleanup Program, and then also the MDNR. We're all part of the voluntary cooperative program with them. So what I wanted to draw your attention to on the plan, this is out of the remedial action plan, is the staff voiced concerns about the construction that may exacerbate the ammonia contamination. And what this map shows is all those yellow highlights there, those are where the exceedances of the ammonia risk-based target levels are, okay? And they're all deep in the soil. They're all below like the surface level, okay? And we did, none of those are in the development zone, okay? So that's good. We also are designing a building with shallow footings, so none of the footings, I think they go like 15 feet or something. But we do, out of abundance of caution, we do want to have environmental oversight on a few of those areas. That one little red circle, those are the little red circles, okay? And so the one red circle on the top there, there's no construction activity in there, but there is a zone there that if we want to draw it to everybody's attention, hey, if you touch that area, we need to have environmental oversight. And it's going to be Susie and her group will come and have somebody on site if there's any construction activity in those areas, okay? And so the other area is that L-shaped area, and that has to do with the xylene contamination, which I'm going to talk about next, okay? And then the third area is that square towards the bottom. And we highlighted that area just because it's going a little deeper, and the soil sampling was done like 5 feet. It was all non-detect, but we don't have like the 10-foot depths like we do on a lot of the other spots. So we thought, we better do some environmental oversight on that one. And, if there's any impacted soils, we follow the site waste management plan, and any impacted soils would be sent off-site and treated as special waste. Okay, we're not anticipating encountering any of those, but we do have a plan to address that. So yeah, that's kind of the overview on the ammonia. The next thing I want to talk about is that L shape, and we're talking about the xylene contamination. And we've been working since 2006 with the Missouri Department of Natural Resources as part of their voluntary cooperative program to clean up the site. And over the last 20 years, we spent a little over $1.4 million in getting that cleaned up and removing the xylene contamination, okay? We have determined that it's not migrating off-site. We did a plume stability study as part of that baseline risk assessment that's been submitted, and we're almost done. Basically, we went through 2 revisions with both the Missouri Department of Natural Resources and the Department of Human Health Services, DHHS, and we know we own this problem forever, and we're gonna stick to it. We're gonna clean it up, and we're gonna make sure it's safe for public health and the environment. That's what we want. And the state of Missouri holds us accountable, and we're going to be held accountable, and we want to be held accountable, okay? And we're going to continue to monitor this as part of the long-term stewardship program to make sure everything's safe for public health and the environment. And this is a conceptual site model from the baseline risk assessment, so that kind of gives you a little bit of visual of what we're talking about when we talk about the xylene contamination. It's the building will be constructed to the left of this diagram, and basically that blue dotted line, that's the area of the contamination, the residual contamination that's remaining. And it is it's considered stable, and we'll continue to monitor it. And we're working with the DNR to basically go to a long-term stewardship program with that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Susie, and she's been helping us. She's been working on this site for over 10 years, and she's a expert in this stuff, geologist and certified engineer. So she's going to give you a little more detail.
Thanks, Kyle. Thank you guys for hanging in on some of these technical issues. And if you have questions afterwards, please don't hesitate to ask. Before I advance the slides, just to back up a little bit of what Kyle was saying, with the xylenes contamination, that is residual. The baseline risk assessment that we performed and submitted a report to MDNR did just establish that the remaining concentrations are below acceptable risk levels to remain on site. And so we are moving towards the final stages of that, of getting into an environmental covenant with MDNR and having the long-term monitoring and long-term stewardship procedures defined that will be carried out for the future on that. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about some of the compliance efforts that TNEMC participates in and is required to follow with their facility. It's more than just the ammonia contamination and the xylenes plumes. With the paint and manufacturing facility and their operations, they also have to comply with federal regulations, including the Spill Prevention, Control, and Countermeasures Rule, which is a federal rule that is set up to protect facilities from spills of petroleum and oils. And it is specifically set up for the petroleum and oil products. So if a facility has more than 1,320 gallons of total combined capacity to store oil above ground, including anything in a 55-gallon drum and bigger, then that facility is required by federal law to have an SPCC plan that is established on their site that they follow. And that plan is really designed to give the facility the outlines, the procedures, and the activities that they should perform, first of all, to prevent oil spills, best management practices, housekeeping items, that type of thing. And then if a spill does occur, the plan also has procedures and activities that they follow to be prepared to clean it up and to respond to it to prevent the spill from reaching a water of the state, which for the TNEMC facility is the Missouri River, which is right there. So that plan is required by federal law for the facility. It has to be reviewed every year by management, and every 5 years it has to be recertified by a professional engineer. And we just did an update for TNEMC this year on their plan, so they have a current plan right now. Very similar to that, there's another plan that is required called a Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. We call it the SWIP. And this is in support of discharge permits that the facility is allowed to have. Those are federal discharge permits that allow the discharge of stormwater or wastewater that may have some pollutants in it to waters of the state. And there's certain limits that can be with that pollution. So TNEMC has two discharge permits. They have a general permit allows them to discharge stormwater, rainwater that falls onto their parking lots and roofs and buildings and flows off into the storm sewer. And they also have a site-specific permit that is more specific to some of their processes and their process water to allow what conditions that water can be discharged. As part of that federal program to have those permits, they are required to have a SWIP that is prepared. It's actually not required to be prepared by a professional engineer, but most are, and TNEMIC has engaged our company to update those plans. And it's very similar to the spill prevention, control, and countermeasures plan, but it goes into a little bit more detail as far as what type of monitoring and routine procedures should be performed to ensure that there isn't a discharge that exceeds the allowable pollutant levels. So, for example, TNEMIC performs monthly inspections of all of their storage tanks inside the buildings and outside the buildings to make sure that the tanks and the storage containers are not damaged, that there's enough containment for any potential spills, and they have the cleanup equipment and so, the procedures and stuff that they need to have in place to address those. And then that is also reviewed annually by management and certified every 5 years. So I think I was going to say something else about it, but I think you guys got the idea. There's contingency plans worked into those, and the fun part for TNEMIC is that EPA and MDNR personnel come out whenever they want to and do inspections and make sure, number one, that they're complying with their plans, and number two, that the plans are appropriate for their facilities. And then they will provide comments back to TNEMIC for any suggestions or revisions that they need to make. And TNEMIC has had a really good history of keeping up with any comments by those agencies and keeping their plans up to date. For the proposed development, as Kyle mentioned, this was presented to the Missouri Department of Natural Resources in the remedial action plan that we provided that basically says that the development will serve as a remedial action to address the ammonia contamination that is on site already. And the reason and the method of that is that it's going to have a building and paved parking lots over the majority of that lot 2. So that's going to prevent further infiltration of stormwater and rainwater that would go down and leach the contaminants into the drinking water. So it's really kind of like a cap for the area. In addition, they've designed a stormwater detention basin that will be lined. That way, that further minimizes infiltration. And as Kyle mentioned, they've designed it with shallow footings, so they're not digging very far deep into the soil. Although on that heat map, colorful drawing, it showed that there really isn't known contaminated soil in the development area, but this is just a further protection on that. And he mentioned there will be environmental oversight during the construction. We have designated certain areas where we must be on site when they're doing that work. We will also be on call for any other times that something unforeseen may come up. And we will do a training with the contractors in the beginning so that they know what to look out for when to give us a call. And the environmental benefits, of doing that obviously reduces the risk of exacerbating the existing contamination. It improves the site conditions with stormwater management. And the building, I've been told, is designed with a lot of containment processes. So if, for example, if there's a fire and the sprinklers go off, they've got something set up where it will close the doors, keep the water in so that they can handle the water properly. Really, they've done a lot of over the top, I would say, more than what's typical for trying to make sure that they're going to be not adversely affecting the environment. So. We did, just last week, get approval from MDNR for the remedial action plan that's proposed, so that they have given us approval to go ahead and use the development as a remediation action on the site. And this quote that you can see on the screen was from the MDNR project director that really supports everything that we've just talked about here. With that, we're moving into discussion, and I'm gonna, oh, yes.
Oh, no.
You look like you had a question.
I was getting ready to comment, but if
Oh,
we're,
okay. I was gonna bring Kyle back up here.
Oh, yeah, further,
so,
okay.
Yeah,
yeah, no, if he's got
And-
more, yeah, keep going. Keep going here.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We just have a couple more points we wanted to bring up. You know, we're prepared to deliver an important project for the city and for Tanema Company. And we would like to request approval of this project tonight with some deviations of the proposed conditions, okay? Specifically, we would like to request that conditions 1, 2, 4, 6, and 7 be removed. And basically, 1, 2, and 7 are covered by city code. We do have some outdoor storage that's allowed by code for industrial. It's not any kind of packaged goods or any chemicals. It's just some pallets and some empty containers, things like that. And then the 2 and 7 about the stormwater, that's all covered by city code. And there will be some, like, grassy areas that don't, on the edge, that may have some stormwater that drains into the soil, but you know, it's all going in that basin, and we've got the liner, and we're actually designed superior to the code requirements. And then 4 and 6, those are covered by state authority. And with number 4 in particular, we have the environmental covenants that are going to be required as part of the remedial action plan and the baseline risk assessment. And it's still, when they do those covenants, the state has all these boilerplate language you got to do, plus it's got to go through all their lawyers, which if you ever dealt with state lawyers, they take their time, believe me. And the other thing is they issue those at the end of the project. They don't do it before you can get a permit or things like that. It's toward the end, because the project itself is the remedial action plan, and so that's when they do those covenants. So it's at the end. And so we do think that should be removed. And again, the number 6, it is a state authority on permits and things like that, and we will comply with all the regulations when it comes to updating our plans and our permits, but we're at the mercy of the state sometimes on those permits. Well, when we apply for our stormwater permit, sometimes those take 2 years for them to get, and we would rather not have a building sit empty waiting for a occupancy permit because the state's taken 2 years to do their work. So that's really what we're asking for here, and this will definitely reduce the risk, the existing risk, and we've got some good state-of-the-art safety stuff going in there, and that would be good. So appreciate your time, and we'll be ready for questions.
Perfect. Could you just, oh, I'm sorry. I'm used to sitting there. There you go. Thank you. 1, 2, 4, 6, and 7. That's what you said, correct?
Yes,
Okay,
1,
just wanna
2,
make
4,
sure I struck
6,
the right
7.
ones there.
Yes.
I feel like I got a lot more questions, but that one threw me off. I'll let everyone. Yeah, go ahead. Or, I'm sorry, you. All people. Yeah.
So thank you for the presentation. And as a step back, Tanemic is an amazing company that's been in North Kansas City for a very long time. If you haven't been over to their facility, please go take the opportunity to tour it. They'll walk you through it. It's amazing. You can go from hard hat area where you can't hear anything, but you see a lot of machines moving, to you open a door and you're in this bright white lit warehouse or laboratory where they're doing water testing and paint formulation. And then you go into stress testing where there's extremes applied to the paints. They're like throwing axes at them, I think. I don't remember exactly what we did. But it's a really cool tour. But what was eye-opening when we were there is this is a real need, a business need. When you see how it's set up now, you got to load a truck to move it across the street. And if I remember correctly, there's paperwork and manifests, and you got to do all the stuff. And logistical nightmare. And we've been at this, trying to get this badly needed storage facility for 2 years now, maybe a little more than that, through these processes. And there's some legitimate concerns with the ammonia. The capping makes a lot of sense. It's good to have an expert in the field talk about that. But coming in and looking at these conditions, I had actually flagged a few of them as potentially redundant. So I'd have some questions maybe to staff as to why we have some of these conditions and what they add for the city's benefit versus state authority, and maybe we can just kind of take them one at a time. Number one, for example, limiting to indoor warehousing and storage. That's the use. Is it number one on there because it would be a change of use to add manufacturing inside, or what's going on with that one?
The reason for this one to be there is currently it is zone M2, and per the site plan approval, it is stated to be a warehousing and storage only. There is no expansion of manufacturing piece. So this condition is drafted in line with the proposal and the current proposal. However, if we don't have this condition there, it opens the door that they could eventually have a manufacturing there. We don't have a lot to say because the zoning district allows this particular use. And over here, we do have a little concern about manufacturing piece to be expanded over closer to our source water supply over there. So that's why this condition is here, that it leaves the opportunity, if they were to add any other new manufacturing uses that, or outdoor storage, that they could come back and get approval from Planning Commission again through the same process. So that's why this condition is there.
The outdoor storage piece, you mentioned that there's some outdoor storage already being utilized. I understand the manufacturing use, not wanting to have heavy operations in that facility if that's not the intent. But the outdoor storage, is there a particular benefit to not having that allowed?
As far as I know, they plan on storing raw materials, and there might be some concern about outdoor storage for raw materials regarding to stormwater.
May I ask, may I add a point of clarification?
Sure.
We do not store any raw materials outdoors, okay? We do store some pallets, and we have some empty, like little plastic tote tanks that we send off for recycling. No open containers, no liquid raw materials are stored outdoors.
And I mean, I don't know if we can delineate that or anything. And I know there's visual barriers that need to be put up if they're stacking pallets outside.
Yeah, that was not the intention for the outdoor storage that's being placed over here.
Just for the water runoff
It's,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, would it be appropriate to
And
just-
also, I might add, that's part of the city code for outdoor storage. They allow pallets and things like that.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
correct.
would it be appropriate to just clarify that language a little bit? And okay.
We can modify this condition, and we can strike the no outdoor storage over here, or we can say no outdoor storage for any materials for manufacturing processing.
Yeah, I think the intent here is not to handcuff your operations. It's, the environmental impacts. So anything that's, course of doing business, you're going to have some stuff sitting outside. It happens. I don't think that's what the intent is here.
That's not the
Cool.
intention.
Then should we just propose striking those 3 words? Sorry, I'm not good at being called on.
Mayor.
Thank you. Should we just strike those 3? Go ahead and say, let's strike those 3 words, nor outdoor storage.
Either strike no outdoor storage or just leave it no outdoor storage of raw materials.
I think that one makes the most sense.
Okay.
Because
Raw
it's
materials.
proposed.
Would that?
No new
is-
manufacturing uses
Yeah.
that shall be permitted without first
Yeah.
obtaining approval.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll leave
we
that.
still have to comply with our stormwater permit.
Yep.
I mean, our general industrial permit, so you can't have stuff outside that's gonna catch water and no chemicals and.
It's pretty
anyway,
redundant.
So, yeah,
But, I mean, toss those words in there. If that's there, does that take care of condition 1?
yes.
Okay.
Of materials.
All right,
Instead of materials. Is that
Yeah, of raw materials.
Of raw materials.
Okay, number 2, Shu, what are we looking at there as far as staff rationale?
Yeah, number 2 over here, it states that the applicant shall provide stormwater management designed strictly to prevent any infiltration. So what we're doing here actually aligns with what their presentations say. Currently, this is a site plan review. So a lot of those construction details are at a very high level. There is no way for us to know exactly what the construction plans are over here till we get to the building permit part. That's why the condition sits there basically to make sure they are getting capped and lined, that they don't get infiltrated because of the ammonia issue. To me, I feel like this is not really a redundant condition over here, but rather a security over here to make sure the design away doesn't get infiltrated when we receive more information at the building permit level. So my recommendation would be to have this condition stay.
Okay.
Do you have any feedback on that then?
Well, we were just concerned, like, because the way that footprint is, and I think I can go back. This, there's some area on the edge there where there's going to be grassy area, okay, out where the driveway comes in, there's grassy area, like between the car wash and the driveway. That's not going to drain straight into the basin. That's going to have storm water that'll infiltrate, and they use the term any infiltration. We weren't
strictly
sure what that meant, but the design is designed to have all the stormwater go through that basin. It's lined with a 12-inch compacted clay and 60 mil poly liner. There is not going to be any stormwater infiltrating from the building or the lots or anything like that.
Yeah, given what you've presented, it sounds like that's what you're doing. But the language I underlined was strictly prevent any infiltration, and that's heavy wording. Right now, it's wide open, right? Like, it rains, water just goes straight down in.
Yes.
The way I see it is short of any sort of, as construction is ongoing and the ammonia plume shifts, that would be bad. But if they're capping it, it seems better than it is right now. And like, that's the impermeable surface and the liner seem better. This one, number 2. I don't know what the rest of the commissioners think. I could see it lifting out given the presentation.
Yes, sir. Any comments from any of the other commissioners on number 2?
Well, it seems like, and I appreciate the explanation, because I think you do have a really good plan, it seems like. I mean, I guess that's maybe what Jesse's saying too, is or part of it is the strictly prevent any infiltration, even though your plan goes pretty far to prevent as much as possible and try to get that to zero, and it is a big improvement over what's there now. So, I mean, but it seems like you've presented a really thoughtful plan that's already, I mean, that's the whole issue here is, like, I think everybody appreciates the work you put into it to make it the best project possible. We love the expansion, great company, and the environmental issue is one we already have, not one that's coming. And that's not anyone in the room's fault. Like that. But the big concern is anyone who lives here and works here is protecting the drinking water. I think that's number one, right?
Yep.
And that seems to be, you spent a bunch of money. Other people have spent money on trying to clean up some of what's there and contain it. I guess, is that status of that? That's not your issue, but I mean, how much is even left down there? Because it seems like the big issue now is the water pushing what's down there around,
Yeah.
rather
well,
than trying to extract it all out.
Yeah,
which would
well,
be the best thing.
the
obviously.
ammonia, as you can see from this diagram, it's hard for me to describe, but that yellow box where it says 1,300, okay, that's where the main source is, okay? And there was off-site sources, okay? It came from the railroad or somewhere. And they think it may have gotten into a footing of the ADM and went down there. But what happens is the water wells, you're drawing from a pretty large area. And it's basically, you can see the map. I mean, it just goes straight towards the drinking water wells.
Well, that was going to be, you just touched on it, so I want to interrupt you while you're on the topic. Like, I don't know if I'll ever get this information again. Where did the ammonia come from? How long has it been there? The xylene
That's a big question.
The xylene was the other thing that mentioned. Like, we got to learn a little bit here. We're trying to fix a problem, but if we don't understand how the problem got there in the first phase, sometimes you haven't really fixed the problem. You know what I'm saying?
So with with contamination like this, okay, it falls under CERCLA, it's a cradle to grave liability, okay? And we didn't put it there, we own the land, and that's why we're in this voluntary cleanup thing. And because the ammonia, and Susie might correct me on this, there isn't really any like limits, like where they could actually hold somebody responsible and make them clean it up. Okay, it wasn't like a regulated contaminant in that realm. They couldn't force like ADM to clean it up or the railroad or anybody. And so you guys end up basically, and I get where you're at. I mean, you get stuck with a problem and nobody's paying for it, you know, and that's part of why, you know, we're going to cap the site. We're going to do our best. We can't assume the liability for that because we didn't put it there, and no company in the right mind would do that. Now the xylene is, hey, that's a petroleum liquid. That's the same kind of stuff we use in our factory. It probably came from our factory. We checked our tanks. They don't leak. There is some historical underground piping possibly that could have done that, or maybe there was something that happened that nobody knew about. But we own that problem, and we're going to fix that problem. And we have been fixing it, and we have been spending $1.4 million on it. And we will continue to clean that up. The ammonia, we're doing the best we can, cap the site. We can't do anything about what's already there, really.
Well, yeah.
Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, it helps, I think.
I had a question. I mean, really, excuse me, I don't know if you can hear me very well, but is it really the word any? I mean, that's a pretty broad, all-encompassing word.
Yeah,
Can we change that to like best effort?
Sure.
Or just,
You know, because that's
Yeah.
really all you can do, right, at this point?
Mm-hmm.
Best effort to
Yeah,
prevent
absolutely.
infiltration.
And we're going to do that.
Right.
And that's what we've done with the plan, with the clay liner and the poly liner.
Right. Does that make sense to you guys?
yeah, where would you,
I think Andy's got to,
He's back on
Number
the strictly
the
prevent
applicant
any.
shall,
that's,
how would you write
that's
that?
the,
That it comes after.
Shall provide
strictly
stormwater
prevent
management.
Any.
Designed
and nothing can prevent any.
Yeah. No, I see any, but,
All right.
okay, I'm just making sure the new language. There's that.
Sorry, the stormwater drain is all designed according to city code.
Yeah.
So it's code requirements all the way. There'll be plenty of time to review code and
Yeah.
make sure that that's all up to code during the permitting process.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
If I
Yeah.
may suggest, if I understand right, it sounds like you want to modify this condition to the applicant shall provide the best effort to stormwater management designed to prevent infiltration, ensuring all runoff is managed, yada, yada.
Yeah, that's
Does
good.
that sound
Yeah,
right?
that sounds
Yeah.
reasonable.
Is that consistent with the intent of that
I think that is consistent with the
condition?
intent.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, that's good.
So we're proposing changing any to designed to strictly apply best practices? Or what's?
I think Shu
think
said,
she-
said it
What
better.
Shu
The
said.
applicant shall provide best effort stormwater
best
management
effort.
designed
Okay.
to
And then
prevent.
strike.
Infiltration.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Strictly and any are gone.
Okay.
We added best effort.
Designed to prevent. Okay,
Everybody happy with number 2?
number 4.
We good in the crowd? Everybody's thumbs up here? Yeah, uh-oh. Okay, I'm happy to hear thoughts on that, because I know this is one of the major sticking points here.
I don't want to be objectional and all, but
Please
even
do.
saying best methods, how do you define best methods? It's the same as any and all of that from a legal and all of that type of thing. So it's better, yes. The way that you've written it now is better, but do I still like it? No, because I get hung up on what we call no words. So
Yeah.
um,
Does it add anything in addition to what city code requires?
We have, not really, because we have a code part over there, and we understand the intention over here and what they proposed over here. They
Yeah.
proposed a 12-inch PVC or another material to line up the detention basin. It is just like how, we often call BMP. There is a best management, right? They don't really define what is the best because the technology always evolve and every situation is unique. One point I want to make is staff is reasonable. And so I understand where your comment comes from with the, oh, there is grass area over here that we cannot prevent every single square foot and of every inch of infiltration. That was not the intention behind it. So in my opinion, it is appropriate to use the word, the best practice over here and the best effort up to the knowledge we currently have and to all the efforts that we appreciate you bringing along.
So I understand the legal concern there, because you're going to look at it and say, there's still this grass part. Are we really making our best effort if we're allowing rain to just go through that? If city code covers this, I don't know that I need it in this as a condition. And this is one stepping back kind of situation. Is Tnemec has been here for a long time. They've put forth a very robust plan, including experts who have put plans together with them. I think there's enough goodwill here that I will trust that they do what they're saying they're going to do. And I don't need condition 2 on there.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Sure. I'll accept applause from that.
Is there further?
I,
This is a hard habit to break.
yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask for further comments, and that's you.
That's me. Yeah, and I do have further comment. I understand the intent of this condition, where it is merely the city saying the things that you guys are already agreeing to do, we want to ensure that happens. And so with that in mind, the goodwill goes both ways here to a certain degree. And whether or not we strike this, I don't know that it tangibly changes what is already being proposed. So can you maybe explain a little bit more about what the major concern with number 2 is? Is it just merely the legal exposure of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
Would it please anyone if we just change the condition to the stormwater will have to be designed and be in compliance with city code?
That seems odd, though, because you're supposed to do that anyways.
Right, like that's why I say it's redundant. That's why I strike it. City code covers what we're asking for.
Okay.
Sorry, never mind.
It's currently designed that way, and through the permitting process, I think a lot more details get uncovered to prove that out. So, you'll have those details by the time we have permits.
No, good. Yeah.
Any other comments from commissioners?
Oh,
On that item or in general?
is that a
On
strike?
two.
Is that okay?
The only I don't want to put redundant things and get you guys in gotchas either. Get you in gotchas either. The only thing I would say that I don't think it's crazy to say, but you're right. It meets if it already meets city code, that makes sense. The only difference here, and again, most of this is not Tnemec's fault. Almost none of it is, especially the current version of the company. The stormwater plan for a normal project that doesn't have this environmental condition is not the same as if you go do an apartment deal where there's not this issue. Again, not your guys, not even on the site necessarily, all of it, but because a normal project, I know projects I've worked on where we're spending money making the water go fast or making the water flow through and then hold and then flow again, versus this is saying, no, we're going to cap. It is a different system, but I don't think that's just making a point, I guess, that doesn't need to be made maybe, but I don't think it's weird to say, hey, we do need the stormwater plan to be provided. We know you're going to provide it. We just want to make sure that's noted again, I guess. I don't know.
I do think that's important.
But the absolute language doesn't maybe need to be there, but just,
It does strike me that this is, a special site. We're looking at the map of it on our computers here, where there are advanced environmental issues on the site that we want to be careful with as a city, especially considering the proximity to the water treatment facility and the wells. I don't have any doubt, based on what I've heard tonight, that there is reason for concern that any of your activities will exacerbate any of those issues. In fact, it sounds like the development of this site is one of the better options available to the city. And so I'm a little torn in looking to my colleagues
Well, I guess
to help me sort through.
it doesn't
like,
hurt anybody if it's just something as simple. Maybe maybe it's too generic, and then that way maybe just strike it. But it just says applicant provides stormwater management plan that meets city code to the appropriate standards of the site. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's generic, and maybe that's why you just get rid of it. But I mean, I don't know.
Mayor?
I could coin toss on this one, but I do think what you said is right. It is generic enough that if you already have to comply with what the city requires, then why have this? This isn't calling for anything additional or different, or saying here you need to do something special. This is just saying apply with or abide by our codes. And if you're already having to do that, then I could, yeah, as I said, coin toss, I'll take strike now. 60-40 towards striking it.
And I mean, if you look at condition 3, A, B, and C line out all the extra stuff to do. Talks about capping, lining stormwater, lining the detention basin. So we're leaving 3 there.
Yeah.
That's got all the
Yeah.
special stuff. So I just say strike 2, leave 3, and move on to 4.
I mean, if it matters, I agree to strike 2.
It does
Should we,
matter.
If we need to call a vote on this?
Well, we can do it all at once if you're tracking, if someone's tracking them all. I'm quasi-tracking them, but don't count on that.
Yeah, we can.
Megan looks like she's very much tracking. And then we'll just omni vote on it there,
Yeah.
I think. Up to the chair, of course.
Yep. So 3's not in question. 4.
I would say if we're applying that logic, where I think we might end up in the same place, I'll go ahead and say on 4 and 6 as well.
Yeah.
And saying that 4 is already required by the state, I'll let you and everyone speak to it, but to try to expedite things a little bit. I think we're going to end up at the same logic because you're talking about state and federal regulations, which they'll have to abide by anyways. So then again, what becomes the point in having them in here?
If I'm
Yeah, and the state has the primacy authority on that,
Yeah.
and they're the ones that are gonna tell us what we have to do there.
Your concern is timing, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's
there's
like
a
if
timing issue there.
Yeah, if you have to do all that stuff before getting your building permit.
Or
then
occupancy permit,
Right.
those are big things.
You
and-
still have to do it.
Yeah,
You
we
just-
will do it, of
Right,
course.
it just
yeah.
doesn't.
Let me propose this question. So we're saying we could get rid of it because the state MDNR is going to enforce it, right?
Yes.
What protections do we have if MDNR doesn't exist or goes away? Like the state says, we don't care about this anymore. And we've just said, well, we don't have a. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, should the MDNR, if we default to them, but they decide they're going to get real loose with this or not exist or something, extreme, we don't then have anything to fall back on that says you had to do it because we got rid of it saying the state was going to handle it. Is that a risk or not?
And I would say we don't have any fallback either, though, because we don't have any ordinances
Right.
to enforce.
There's nothing at the
either.
city level that we have.
There's regulations, but I don't think that's specifically the same as
It's a much
what this
bigger
is.
question
Yeah.
if the
Yeah.
body's
Policy.
in place
I'm just.
to regulate
It-
this.
The way 4 is written is like they still have to get all this done. We just want to review the document before issuing the building permit, and he is saying that could take a really long time for them to get through that process. And every time I'm sure there's construction bids already gone out. There's money on the table that we need to get things moving. And I'm not looking to rush it, but I also don't want to like hold it back through bureaucratic nonsense.
Could you put in there, though, that the owner-developer has to, even if it's not before permitting,
Yeah.
it has to submit to the city?
Sure.
We can put it as submit to the city, and also we can put it prior to issuance of final certificate of occupancy.
Yeah.
Then therefore, it does not delay their construction
Yeah.
or impact their construction
like
loan.
that.
if there
Yeah,
is
well,
any.
the certificate of occupancy thing, we may not have it before then. I mean, because the building is completed, and then that's basically the completion of the remedial action plan, and that's when the environmental covenants go in on that. In addition, the number 4 talks about lot 1, 3, and tract A, which aren't even part of
That's
this
gonna be my other question.
at
if we
all.
give it. 'Cause
Yeah,
you're
I
just
mean,
on lot 2.
We're just talking about lot 2 here.
It seems like we could allow things to proceed as intended. They do submit this document to be reviewed and approved by staff, and if something in the document concerns staff, we need some remedial action. If there's something that comes out of this, like go ahead and build, go ahead and start storing your goods there, but by the time this comes back, if there's a problem, we got to have some way to address that problem. Because the idea is holding up the building permit if there's a problem, right?
Yeah, and the occupancy permit.
And the occupancy, like, I'm saying, don't do those things, but if there is a problem, if it does show up and we've allowed the train to continue on.
Yeah, and I know the state would be happy to.
Yeah, we
to
just need, we
let
need
you
some
guys-
mechanism.
Talk to you guys about what they're doing and that, so.
I mean, I would be okay
We don't
with
think
it.
it's necessary because we're covered by the state. They're the ones that are gonna tell us what to do there. They already just said they're gonna have no drinking water wells, no residential stuff. You have to, anytime there's gonna be any construction, you have to have certain things happen and things like that, so. They already told us what it's gonna be, so it's just, they've gotta just get their boilerplate language, the lawyers gotta get a hold of it and do all their thing, and all this other stuff has to happen before all that takes place, which it can be a long process. I mean, we've been working on it since 2006 for almost 20 years on the xylene thing, and, we think we're close to the end, but the DNR has their own time frame.
Again, the covenants is just that's a statutory requirement, though. from the state.
That's a requirement
So
of the
you're
state,
going to have
yes.
to do it.
Yes, we will
Or
be
you will
required to
in
do it.
violation of.
Yes.
Yeah, state law.
Yeah, and it's in our best interest because we want to get what you call a letter of completion or something for that lot 2. And in order to do that, we have to do all that stuff. I mean, that helps us, that helps protect us from future liability. Same thing for the xylene thing. We want to get a no further action letter, that kind of thing, and that's all part of the deal. We get something in return, so.
So it sounds like.
So there's a big interest for us to do that.
It sounds like maybe the xylene, when you say that you're taking a long time, you mean you think you've pretty much gotten it all? And they just-
Yeah, we're going to a site closure. Like Susie said, there's no residual levels above any risk levels.
That sounds great and makes sense. It seemed like it can't just be, like, is there like a vortex to somewhere where it just keeps,
No,
it's like
no.
there should be a limited amount
Yeah,
of this
it's-
stuff, right?
Yeah.
Ammonia, where does it keep? But it's more of a.
It's just
It's a longer explanation.
Right, but
There's a whole plume there.
But it sounds like the xylene is maybe almost taken, or you think you maybe even got it. So
Yeah, it's pretty
that's-
well,
That's really good.
yeah.
So where are we at on 4?
We have lots of documents on that we can give you.
Indeed.
We striking 4?
Striking
I
for
wouldn't be
redundant.
opposed to striking 4.
All right, striking 4.
What does that mean for 6 then?
Federal and state regulations.
Yeah, I don't fully understand 6. What it's even saying is, like, as things are ongoing, they need to, can you help me even?
Well, we can't
need to
update
follow
federal regulations. We don't have the authority to update federal
Are
regulations.
responsible for
so,
updating any state, yeah.
That's not even
for
something we
Yeah,
can do.
I think that's more
I think like
compliance with
Yeah.
updated state federal regulations and permits,
you have to do.
which you have to do anyways.
Yeah, we're going to do it because otherwise they're going to come inspect us and say you've got to do it
Who's,
or shut us down. And
who's
we're not
going to
have
come
that happen.
inspect?
EPA or MDNR, they do inspections.
And, well,
Now, the
This
EPA
is-
might not exist
Well,
pretty soon.
That's my point. Like,
Yeah,
are
okay,
we
all
doing
right, now I'm
things-
following where you're at.
Are we doing things because we are afraid we're going to get checked, or are we going to do them because we think it's the right thing to do and we're developing a good partnership? Or even if someone wasn't checking on us, we know that those things would be done and not defaulting to, Big Brother or somebody coming in to check for us.
but if that's the case, if EPA goes away, there's not the institutional stuff in place.
We just don't
with the
have anything
city
at a
of North
local
Kansas City.
level to
Yeah.
even protect ourselves.
And
right?
like this didn't cover that anyways.
Yeah, I'm good with striking 6 and 4.
I mean, the replacement in that scenario would be comply with the laws that are no longer in place, but we're going to adopt them, like if the city of North Kansas
To the
City.
fact later, and we're gonna write that
Yeah.
now in the site plan review.
And so with that in mind, like, I think the best thing we can do at this point, given where we are and what we know right now, is to continue relying on those institutions, assuming that they, God willing, exist in the future.
Okay, and then is 7 any different than the review process for city
Yeah,
code?
I mean, we're complying with stormwater regulations. I mean, it's the same thing. It's already covered in code. It's not needed.
So,
If
what
I-
is number
if I
7?
may, can I talk about number 7?
Yeah, help me understand that one.
If all the conditions that have been proposed over here, I think this is probably by far the most important one over
Okay.
here. What this one particularly does is because right now we don't have the information for the construction level for us to review per building code for this particular unique situation. So what we're asking here is to cover our base without the capability for city staff to review any of this, needing any of the specialty for reviewing any of this. So it particularly worded the way that for proper safety features, containment requirements, I think Susan mentioned about in regarding to, say, for example, if the fire alarm went off and the sprinklers came down, they should contain the water. So right now, there is no information whatsoever for us to understand how they're going to do it. So this particular condition over here is saying that the applicant will provide the information on the detailed drawing plans for construction and to be reviewed by a reputable professional firm. That's staff agrees, because I might not have a specialty staff who has the capability to review and sign off on any of this. So, and the cost, of course, is on the applicant's side. And this is what this particular condition really say.
So this is getting the requisite level of expertise
Exactly.
looking at it. That I'm okay with. Yeah, that, I mean, I don't, David Harris knows a ton about a ton of things, but I don't know if he has that expertise either.
This is actually after discussion with David Harris, our building official. There are certain areas he might not be able
Sure.
to provide the service, and this is why it's actually pretty common for us to have outsource certain reviews, and this is one of those we can foresee it's coming.
That I can support number 7.
Oh, Mayor, I was going to ask if you had anything further on 7 then with that.
Do we have anything further on 7?
I'd say my only remaining concern is the city may require additional review time to conduct a review of a report, and I talked
So
earlier to staff.
some of
It's a
the
very broad
comments
time
I've heard
horizon.
tonight that made a lot of sense to me is, this may not be your traditional site. You guys are reviewing something that has some nuance around it, and so I understand that you might want to take some further steps. Our thought process in asking to strike 7 was that, again, we're designing a facility according to existing city codes. All of the necessary protections that are required by code will be there. The folks that you have on staff who will review those during the permitting phase will find everything that they need to find. And so we thought it was fairly redundant, just because we know it's going to go through code review before we get permitted. So I don't know if you're asking us to spend extra money now on a third-party expert, and so that's where we were coming from.
So we actually have done this before, if you're looking for predecessors for special projects. And it is aligned with building plan reviews, inspections. It is the closest one, I would say, for 23rd Swift, Oxbow. They all had a special inspections and design reviews over there at one point. So it's not really that unique for a city of our size to ask for this particular item over here. And also giving the particular safety requirement per their own environmental impact assessment package, we believe this is something that is necessary and a little different than just reviewing somebody expanding their house, adding a deck, which we typically process all of that in-house. And I do want to kind of emphasize one thing that was brought up by our Public Works Director, that our current city codes does not cover a lot of this uniqueness of the site, including the stormwater drainage. Like I believe Commissioner Tall mentioned, in all cases, we require you to drain it as fast as you can, get down so you don't pond. And in this case, we want to cap it. So that kind of give you a little sight of how this site is a little different than the others. And really, it's not because we're talking to NIMIC or anything like that. It's just really we had the concern of this is only 1,500 feet away from our source water protection area. It's actually in the source water protection area right now in our particularly developing plans, and we can go deeper in that conversation. But the reason I want to bring it up is he made it very clear our current code actually does not cover the particular requirement. This is why you have seen these conditions. We cannot put out a general language and say, just go ahead, comply with city code, then staff will feel like our hands are very tight.
Yeah.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So without 7, before they're issued a certificate of occupancy, who inspects the building?
Our staff will inspect everything.
Does the fire department get involved in
Yeah,
that?
of course.
Okay, so fire department, city
do-
staff?
Yep.
Okay.
Most of the time, my staff inspect it along with our fire department.
And 7 is in relation to that step of things, or is it pre-certificate of occupancy? We want to see and have an expert take a look. Okay, so it's before
It's
construction
prior to.
begins. Okay.
And so for plan reviews, that's prior to construction begins, because that's where the building permit issuance is.
I see.
And then after or during construction time, the special inspection is for prior to issuance of certificate of occupancy.
So with 7, is staff still reviewing?
We're still reviewing
Okay.
everything, because we have to decide
So
what we cannot really, or what information we don't have enough, what we cannot review. And I'm okay to change the language if you are concerned about the review time that I put over there for the additional review time by city staff. We could definitely put it a time limit over there, or just say a reasonable, we actually say that in our current city code, to say staff shall be provided or may require reasonable additional review time. We do have a standard operating procedure. It's typically 2 weeks for any round of reviews, and usually 1 week we can do the simple ones for revised plans, things like that.
Given that we're going to be having multiple eyes on this project, kind of across the city and externally, is there a way, this is a level of planning I'm not overly familiar with, so kind of deferring to your expertise, but is there a way for us to limit costs on that third-party review to just the things that internally
absolutely.
we don't have the expertise on?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Because we're not trying to make it $1 million project for any firm out there. I personally don't have any relationship for that at all. And this is why we still review the components that we normally do. And for the specialty part, most of the time they would already come have engineer reports with stamps on it. And we might have some questions. And if there is additional things we needed, we'll go after it.
Okay.
That's correct. We work with local firm FP&C. And they're familiar with all the city codes. They're going to design this for us, and there'll be those engineering stamps there when the plans come in. It was just, we're looking at this like, okay, we have an engineer already on the project team designing 2 existing building codes. Should we bear the cost of another engineer who does the exact same work just to approve the work that the first engineer did?
So I was wondering, so, obviously, every project, Oxbow's, where they probably spent extra money on was concrete special inspections, right? They're out there all the time testing the concrete. But every project, the developer's bearing the cost, like you said, of, so your footings, your concrete, sometimes those can be third party, sometimes it can be the same engineer. We had to switch back, I know, on a project I worked on over here. For some reason, went with Terracon, then we switched back to Olson and had Olson finish the footings and the concrete. And they were the project civil engineer already. So that's pretty common. I'm wondering, though, when you go to C of O, the city's out there passing everything, right? All your, rough ends and all your systems, right? Your MEP of all these things. It sounds like the issue or concern is not worry, but that there's a higher level of when the fire alarms go off and the sprinklers go off, it's going to be different than, again, most buildings are going to want to open up and water it down and everybody get out. That's really what you're worried about in this. It sounds like there's that, but then containment, either on like a bathtub effect or something to try to keep stuff in. I would think that the regular inspections are going to get into that, and that I wonder if it's just more, can the city get access, which I think they already probably have the ability to do that, to those reports?
Sure.
That
Absolutely.
that if they're from if they're from a licensed, engineer, and if they're, like you said, stamped, and those engineers are going on the hook for, their errors and omissions and insurance and everything, I'm wondering if it's more just, hey, the city needs to see all that, because this is the layer that we don't normally see, which is this bathtub effect on, maybe more of the manufacturing here has this than I'm thinking of, but most residential and mixed use doesn't have that.
Yeah, it's going to comply with the H3 occupancy, which is the FLAM storage. We do have some FLAM and some corrosive raw materials that are going to be stored in there. So it's going to comply with all that. And that's why you have to have the containment, okay? So you don't want the chemicals going outside the building, okay, if something would happen, okay? And so it's going to be designed to contain all that. And that's also part of our spill prevention countermeasures and control plan that Susie talked about when she does her work. So that's all part of that. They all kind of work in conjunction together, so.
I'm glad we're talking about fire stuff, so I'm going to piggyback on that. I've heard a lot about soil runoff and stormwater, and I think there's a lot of information about that. But in this situation of a fire, we've got a certain size building right now with materials stored, got a much bigger, not manufacturing, but storage facility, which I assume will generally have quite a bit stored in it. If you're going to build something that big, you're going to use it, right?
Yep.
Should the building catch on fire, explode, something like that, how much is the risk level? I was just reading about the Georgia explosion that happened back in September, and there was a big evacuation. Based on what's in there, if it were all to go up in flames, what would be the risk to the community? Are we talking about evacuating North Kansas City? I don't know if the city, the fire department has even thought about that. Is that a risk? Because you've got, if it was my house and I put 500 extra gallons of paint in there, I would be a little more concerned than if I had 10 gallons of paint, right? Just from a risk level.
Yeah. Yeah, so it'll be designed with the sprinkler fire protection that will mitigate the risk. And we actually have a fire pump built into the plan because we don't have enough water pressure in the city. And that's also gonna be, we're gonna use that pump tie it into our other building to service that, to improve those conditions. So we're going to have a good, solid fire prevention system. And Arnie down there with FP&C, he's helping us design that, so.
Your risk doesn't change. We're storing those materials currently in a leased space that's on our main campus. The storage facility that we're building now is the same footprint, same size, same capacity.
Okay, so it's not an additional amount of material would be stored.
We're not bringing more materials into the total inventory. So your risk doesn't change. Like Kyle said, because of the improvements with the fire pump, your
Better,
risk actually
safer.
Actually
It's
lower
better.
risk overall, yeah.
Correct. Let's go over here and then Mayor.
Coming back to number 7, so the intent of this is that if we need an independent expert to perform a review, the costs are covered. Is that right? That's the intent of this.
That is the major intent of this, and that is due to the uniqueness of the
Yeah, I
site
don't think
and
we
its
can strike it
location.
in that case.
Mayor, do you have a?
Well, hold on, that changed my comment then. Do we alter it in some sort of way then to say something closer to that? Because this, again, has a lot of that state and federal regulation type language that we've already removed in previous ones.
Number 7.
So if we're going for continuity, yeah, it seemed,
The sticking point seems to be that outside design piece, or outside.
Yeah.
So I think rather than, honestly, rather than shall, which would be a forcing of this to happen, if you get it from their engineer and it passes muster, I don't see that we still need to go to the outside firm. Maybe if we need the outside, if it comes to your department and we're we just don't have the person who knows enough about this, we send it outside.
Sure, I'm okay with that.
Is that, I understand it can be a hang-up, but I have confidence it's all going to come through fine. But if it hits that point, we're just not a city that has a giant
Okay.
public staff.
We'll do that. That's
Okay.
good.
So I
so
think,
is that with the striking of sentence 1 or leave sentence 1?
so where it
And-
says the design and plan shall be
Sentence two,
reviewed, design and plan may be reviewed.
Yeah, and if we could just try to do it in a timely manner.
Yeah, and that was the
would
other
help
part
us.
is the additional time to, how much.
I
are
don't
we-
know if you need 30 days. What do you typically need?
Well, typically, I said 50 days, 2 weeks.
2 weeks? Okay, yeah,
That's
that's great.
typically how
Yeah.
quickly we turn around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that
good with
understanding. Okay.
We'll meet you halfway on that, for
So
sure.
we're changing
Shall to
7
may.
from shall to may, striking 4 and 6, striking 2, and modifying 1 to the specification of outdoor storage of raw materials.
That's correct.
Are
So
we
moved.
adding the,
And let me,
are we adding the time frame?
No,
to 7?
that's
Okay.
just, that's an understanding.
That's standard.
I guess we got that one on. Let me ask you about the one, my bone to pick, number 5. What do you feel about number 5?
Yeah,
It seems,
Can you
and
read
we've
it
had this
to me
conversation
again?
earlier, to me it seems highly arbitrary and too broad and encompassing of, well, nothing. I mean, it's just highly broad. And if we had any other additional way to,
we talked about number 5. You know, again, it seems kind of redundant. We've kind of already done that. I mean, Susie's 1,000 pages there is everything you're going to need on the affecting the water supply.
Okay.
I mean, I would actually add that one in the same camp.
I mean,
Shu, I'm just gonna ask you.
I'm okay leaving 5, just because we don't know what we don't know until we get some reports back. If there's a major thing that comes up, I'd like to have that as a fallback.
5 is, am I looking at the same 5 as everybody else? Additional information during building permit process?
Yep.
It's not really calling for anything particular.
Nothing specific.
It's not calling for anything in
just-
particular, but this does appear to be a unique project where our staff doesn't have a abundance of experience with this. And so while I don't doubt the veracity and completeness of that document, I mean, looking at it on the table is impressive by itself. But should our staff need additional information, I don't see any reason to strike that. I don't want to handicap the staff from doing their job
Any more than we already have.
any more than we already have.
Okay, so we looking for a motion?
We haven't talked about number 9. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
It's in the
That was
code, too.
another one that it's covered by code. We're not sure why it's in there, but it's not a deal breaker
Might as
for
well
us.
get it.
I can explain that one. That is probably by far the easiest one to explain. So you did propose like some signage on the current plan, but there is not enough information to staff to decide whether or not it complies with the code. So then, really, the condition over there is once when you have designed your signage and send us your permit application that complies with code. So that's why this one is over there.
Okay. I guess it sounds like we're getting ready to come to it. That I'm indifferent on if you're going to comply by signs. It sounds like we made some good headway here already.
Yeah,
So-
appreciate
So
you
you might as well,
guys.
yeah, I think go ahead and call this one. Sound like we already had a motion, but I can go ahead and comment real quick anyways. You know, you guys are taking the right steps. We've been working on this project now for several years, and so I appreciate the protections you're actually putting in, as well as considering the environmental benefits as well. I want to welcome to NEMIC headquarters. I guess for all of you, welcome to NEMIC headquarters back to North Kansas City. I was going to ask Chase if he actually brought any water tower calendars.
We'll
Got
get
the-
you
they
some.
got their water tower of the
1, 2,
month.
3,
They-
7. We'll get them to
Yeah,
you.
you got to have it. If you haven't had a water tower calendar, you got to have a water tower.
Tank of the
calendar.
year. Tank
But
of
no,
the year.
no, Tanemic's been a good, as Jesse mentioned earlier, you know, a good community partner, a good employer for many, many years here in North Kansas City,
Yeah.
and look forward to them being around for many, many
Yeah,
more years.
it's been our home, and it's going to be our home for a long time.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. I
Okay.
think there's a,
So the motion, as I understand it, is approve the site plan with staff recommendations amended to exclude 4 and 6 and 2, and amending 1 to specify the exclusion of outdoor storage of raw materials, and the amendment of 7 to change shall to may in sentence 2 regarding the review of outside professional firms.
sentence
that sounded beautiful.
4.
Second.
Do you have
Did I
a,
hear a motion and a second?
I just want to clarify, you said
Yeah.
change shall to may in sentence 2.
Correct.
Let's just
Yeah.
being real specific, that's sentence 1, 2, 3,
These-
4.
these design and plan
Yes, okay, yeah, you're right. I had the wrong shall crossed out. Go ahead.
may be reviewed.
Okay, second.
Do I need a motion first?
I move that we accept
Okay.
the motion as stated.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Staff, do we need a roll call or?
You don't need a roll call on this one, really, but
Okay.
might as well if you want.
Might as well. Let's do it. We haven't done one yet. I haven't done one yet.
I can put Megan.
Commissioner Thornburg,
Aye, yes.
I forgot. Commissioner Talbot,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Steele,
Yes.
Mayor DeLong,
Yes.
Commissioner Toll,
Yes.
Commissioner Spencer.
Yes.
All righty.
Thank you. We appreciate you guys.
Thank you very much. And yeah, just echoing Mayor's comments. Appreciate having you guys in town and look forward to seeing more growth over there.
Yeah, and hey, come on down, see the plant whenever you want, and just look me up. All right?
Sounds great.
All right, thanks.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Comments from
last-
staff?
Hey, that was a motion and a second.
Anybody got stuff to say?
Just real quick for future planning, while I appreciate all the engineering detail in the 1,000-page report, I tried my best to look through those. I got to maybe 200, 300 pages in. Voluntary position, we may need more time than 3, I don't know what we got, a week maybe, if we're supposed to review those. Otherwise, I'm taking full faith that somebody at the city read the 1,000 pages and said that we agree to all this. So that's all I had.
Aspects of that 1,000 pages the city has had for some time now, because it's been updated to what we've been looking at for several years, so I know staff's definitely had the time. Although it is a lot of reading and a lot of data.
And feel free
not
to
the most
call
fun reading
staff
either.
if you ever had a question. I don't want to insert any, personal opinion to it, but feel free to call staff. So maybe I'll give you a highlighted version.
Yeah, we call out certain pages of the 1,000 that we need to pay attention to. That just Cliff Notes would help.
All right, let's speed run the end of this. Comments from staff?
One little quick thing. Merry Christmas, everyone. Hopefully you all enjoyed this year, and we appreciate your effort and contribution to us, and we hope to see you next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Comments from commissioners?
I got a long list of things.
Yeah, Mayor's tree lighting tomorrow. Come on out. Should be great.
I know there's going to be some really good singers there. I know them personally.
Yeah.
Happy holidays, one and all.
Yep.
Seeing as tonight's business has been completed, anybody move to adjourn?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Gavel it.
Aggressive gamble.